Welcome to this week's episode of Courageous Leaders Changing the World. Super excited for this week's guest, Meg Tovey. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
For the listeners who don't know who you are and what do you do?
I am, on paper, I am a business mentor for online fitness coaches, and I also have an online fitness business.
Yeah.
But as a human,
Yeah.
I am a very curious person. I love to travel. I love trying new things. And I love talking to people and learning about them. And yeah, very curious human being. So,
Okay. Cool.
yeah,
How important do you think curiosity is then?
depends on your values, I guess. It's a big one for me. It can work in my favour and also not if I'm trying to stick to something. But I think what are we here for if it's not to kind of experience the most that we can out of life? So I think if you're not curious from that angle in terms of having the most abundant life, then yeah, I don't really know what you're here for. And then also there's a side of having curiosity in just human connection, and when you're speaking to people and learning about them, and also their triggers and your own triggers and all of that. I think there's so much. I think if you can't be curious with how you speak to people and and curious within yourself, you just won't experience life nearly to the degree that you could if you
Cool. Love it. So the name of the podcast is Courageous Leaders Changing the World. What's been a time for you that you've had to summon more courage than any other time?
I was actually reflecting on the word courage, and I was really struggling to, I guess, when I reflect on my life, I don't really see the things that I do as courageous, because I think they're just, and I know you know this, and I know a lot of high achievers will relate to, they're just the thing. It's just the thing you have to do to get to the place you want to go. So it's very hard for me to kind of think, there's not a single moment where I'm that's the time I had to summon the most courage. And there'll be hundreds of more times. I can obviously rattle off, when I've invested in myself, or when I've anything to do with leading my team, or investing in other things like property and other people, and yeah, but there's not I can't think of one single, even having just difficult conversations all the fucking time with whether it's my team, my partner, my family, friends. It's a never-ending, what would you call it? Not skill, but thing that you need to have.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's a group of people that can easily reflect on it, and then there's the other group of people that are just well, that's just my life.
Yeah.
And it's this interesting kind of dynamic that often the more someone becomes, a high achiever, the more that it becomes about, that's just what's required to actually do the thing. I'd love to hear more about a recent example of one of those difficult conversations that you've had then, and how you journeyed that.
I've had a couple of difficult conversations recently within my team. So I had a employee leave who was with me for 3 years and also happens to be one of my best friends. And I guess how the end of that kind of panned out was it was the most beautiful experience, and I have so much love and respect for her and for our friendship and for my, boundaries in the business and everything like that. But there was a period where we kind of had this particular end date, and then it was just, we could both see that it was gonna end up maybe not so great if we didn't kind of cut it loose. So that was, I guess, something recent. And then I've had like one of my other employees ask me when they can get their like a pay rise sooner, and it's just all these things in, I guess, business that happen on a day-to-day basis that I'm navigating for the first time and trying to maintain my own kind of integrity and like I think this is a bit kind of to the side, but I think like leading with a lot of like love and empathy and like that kind of thing for everyone involved, whilst also, like I said before, maintaining kind of where I want to take the business and everything like that. So I guess that's the first kind of thing that pops to mind, I think, because I'm in a very much like grind phase of business at the moment. So a lot of the experiences that require courage, I guess, would be around leadership and
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, there's often, different layers of courage that we face off with. Often the first part is like the courage to start something new. So obviously in starting, you were a comp prep athlete, is that right?
not a professional by any means, but
you competed.
yeah.
There's courage required to be able to start that, but then there's also the courage required to be able to continue to do that, or there's the courage required to be able to start business coaching and then the ongoing journey with that. And most people see that courage as the courage to start rather than the courage to be able to continue to face off with the thing, because different things come up to have those different difficult conversations in business. To be able to, retire certain either team members in the business requires courage. To be able to retire a specific offer, even if it's profitable in the business, requires a different level of courage. And most people don't see it as that. They just see it as, what's required. And often that distinction of like with courage is just what we do when we choose, that is within inside us, that when we're facing off with something that we fear. Like if you're having that uncomfortable conversation with a team member, when you both recognize that the season of them being an employee is coming to an end, it requires that level of courage to be able to hold the highest standard for the leadership that you're here to create. And most people don't recognize how much that that plays out and how much you take on as a leader. What's been your journey in terms of stepping into those new levels of leadership when you've never done it before, like you said?
I think, I think because I just have like a very strong vision of what my kind of goal is in my life. I don't even Can you ask me the question again?
What's been some examples of you and what you faced off with in stepping into new levels of leadership?
Yeah, I think it's like it's literally just a part of what I have to do to get where I want to go to. So it's not like something that I guess I'm actively thinking about. I did have one of my team members like reflect back to me very recently that she was saying like the last probably 6 or so months, she was saying you've changed a lot in how you kind of view the business and how you kind of lead in that regard, and thinking, I guess, like bigger business and making more decisions from, I guess, like zoomed out lens. So, yeah, being able to maintain my own, because I know that if I can lead the business with like my heart, then I know that the best people are going to stay with me along the way. It's going to obviously mean that the people in our community are going to stay long term and they're going to refer more people and all the things. And it means I guess it's a very sustainable way of growing the business. So I think like the thing that I've probably been navigating or experienced recently in my own leadership is trying to maintain that while also stepping into like that really big business kind of mindset of like there are certain things that you have to do that maybe not going to make sense to everyone and that kind of thing. But still, I guess, taking them along the journey with you so that they do want to go all the way with you as well.
Mm. What's your vision for the business at the moment then?
Vision for the business, to create a big fucking impact and make a difference in, I guess, how bridging the gap between, because there's a lot of, in the fitness industry, there's a lot of people who kind of swing the pendulum one way or the other. They're very body positive and anti-diet culture and all of that kind of thing. And then there's the very hardcore 10-week shred kind of thing. And it's, I guess, we're bridging that gap between you actually can want to lose weight, but it's coming from a place of love and self-respect for yourself. So from like a vision of, I guess, what we're doing in the business, that is how it looks. I'm very confident that it's the model that we have can easily be a multi-7-figure business. So that's where I'm taking it, I guess, like tangibly speaking. And then the mentoring kind of side of things for me is really just my passion. I love talking about business. I kind of, as you would fully relate to this, fell out of love about speaking about fitness and nutrition and all the things. So I very much now love working on that business. And then I do the mentoring kind of, I guess, on the side of scaling that business. I also have a strong, I think there's a lot of, this is a bit of a side tangent, but there's a lot of business mentors that have never built a successful business. So I kind of want to be, my mentoring is it's built organically from what I'm doing in business.
Mm-hmm. Cool. What do you see the primary values that you bring to both parts of the business that you're running then?
What do you mean both parts? Like as in mentoring and fitness?
Yeah, so you've got like both parts of the business. What are the primary threads that go through both of those things in terms of the things that you value in business?
I think a lot of the success that I've had in both of those businesses comes down to my own journey in like self-development, and I know breathwork had a huge impact on how I'm able to, I guess, lead people in mentoring and empower them. I know that word is kind of like thrown around a lot without context, but empowering to me is like you can impact someone. Like I could impact someone and be like, wow, that's amazing. I've had this impact on that person. But when they're able to then impact 10 more people, that to me is like true leadership. So I think being able to, my own, I guess, self-development journey and spiritual journey, I guess you would call it, is a huge part of the foundation of both of those businesses, because it's also what pivoted, because actually, if I just go back to the mentoring side for a moment, I'm like a lot of my clients will be like, yeah, she's very strategy, like very masculine energy in business, but there is a layer, I guess, beneath that you can do all the strategy that you want, but unless you're able to have that self-trust and the like confidence and all the things to be able to execute the strategy, like it's just going to fall on deaf ears. And then in the fitness business, as you know, like as you just said before, I started kind of with comp prep, or I started as a PT, then did comp prep. So a lot of the results that we were getting were very much like shrink your waist, build your glutes, typical kind of body composition, eat more food, that kind of thing. And when I went through my own spiritual journey, the business pivoted a lot with that into, like, I was speaking way more to like clients around, you know, what was going on internally, which obviously had a way bigger impact externally. And so then like the type of people we started working with were so different to what we were working with 5-10 years ago. So I think that having my own personal development journey, or like self-development journey, is the, I guess, foundation for both of those things, and why I think they are quite different to a lot of other businesses that are in the industry, and also why I think my connection to clients, the community that we have, the retention that we have, everything like that is so great.
Yeah, I love that. A lot of similarities with my own journey there. I pretty much always have had one foot in each camp, of like one foot in the transformation kind of space, which is when I was doing comp prep, it was like that. But then there's also like the business coaching part of it as well. And, you know, I swing the pendulum of what my focus is, but, you know, I recognize the same thing that you recognize when I was working with a lot of comp prep athletes as well. It was, you know, you're checking in with them in an email, and you can kind of get a sense very quickly, even as they're just answering a few questions, that, you know, they're journeying things beyond their macros and beyond their training, just based on specific language that they're using. Like if they're like, all right, I just have to do this, or I have to do that, or I need this. It's like there was a certain energetic frequency to that allowed me to start to go, oh, there's probably more to what's going on for this person than just the food, or just the training, or just being 6 weeks out. And, you know, I started to evolve from that to doing that in more of a personal development context with the transformation work that we did. And it was, it's this interesting thing, because it's like, you know, I don't know if you've been in masterminds and things like that. It's like they're like, the fastest way to be able to make more money is to have one offer, do one thing, and do it for the rest of your life. And I'm just like, fuck that shit. I would kill myself. Like, I wanna, you know, there's a time and a place to be able to work with people on transformation, because you see it, you get emotionally fed by that person, because you're seeing the transformation that occurs with them, and you see that when you're working with people in a fitness context or a personal development context. But then you also have that other piece that you're talking about before, of that piece where you're working with leaders, and you don't see the impact that they have on all of their clients. But when they bring that back to you, it's so much more rewarding, because it's not just about that individual. It's about the 10, 50, 100, 1,000 people that those people are going to work with. And one of the core things for me is being okay to be able to be with, having my foot in the transformation kind of side of things, as well as the working with leaders side of things, and not fall into, well, I used to be a lot more extreme. It would be like, oh my God, this is the thing that I'm going to do, and it's going to be amazing. I'm going to burn everything else down. I did that a lot. That's why we talked about earlier of me having 5 podcasts. I think, you know, that's been an interesting thing that has played out for me. And I recognize, you know, when someone does that, I like to see that, because most of the time in the marketplace, it's like, okay, cool. No, just do your one thing. Stay in your lane, do your thing.
Well, yeah, I think I went through that like identity crisis probably this time last year, and I had people saying to me like, you need to go all in on the mentoring, or you need to just like that's a distraction or whatever. But I've found my place in the fitness business where I can do because I love business. So I'm like, okay, well, my place is the vision, is leading the team, finding the right people to put them into the right positions to be able to do what I love doing, whilst also from like a more tangible perspective, like I'm building a business that essentially will run without me. and then I can do because when I think about my future, I've got, like I said, a very clear vision of what I want that to look like. And it is like, I know where the fitness business is going to be, and I'm going to be potentially either fully removed or like the vision of the business and have, you know, people in all the right places. And then I can do what I love, which is talk to people and mentoring for people that are just fucking hungry to just get at it. Have a smaller handful of really high caliber people in business.
What's been your relationship with the evolution of that relationship while doing two things at once then?
It was so fucking hard. Like last year was it was so hard, feeling I had to pick kind of one or the other. And then I was having a conversation with a girlfriend of mine, and I process things when I speak about them with people. And I got to the point where I was like, hang on a minute, like I'm essentially doing the same thing. Like I'm getting my business fix by building this business. And I also like could not give that business up. Never say never, but because I believe in it so much. And it's like been such a huge, like the results that we get are fucking insane. So I was like, I'm not going to just kind of, and also again, from like a more tangible perspective, I would be going backwards in, like I've kind of pulled myself out of trading time for money. I don't work with the clients in the fitness business anymore. And so mentoring is back to that kind of trading time for money. So I guess it would be when I, again, think about my long-term vision, it's like taking a kind of step away from that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was at dinner last week with my partner, and I obsess about business all of the time. So we didn't talk about business much, but I look at business in a different way. So even if I'm out to dinner, I'm looking at like how profitable the business is that I'm actually in. I'm like looking at that table's been empty on a Saturday night for the last 2 hours. That's costing them a lot of money. You know, we're paying hundreds of dollars to be here. They're losing money by having like these just few empty tables, especially coming into Christmas. And I think there's like two parts to that. There's people that are just like naturally obsessed with business, but then there's also people that identify as not being a business person that learn that. And I definitely think that I'm someone who has learned that more than it's been natural. How do you feel that is for you? Is it something that's just like natural to you? You're always like someone who's obsessed about the business side of things, or is that something that you've learned?
Yeah, I think the idea of learning that is just mind-blowing to me, because it's like not that business has always been at the forefront of my mind. Like I definitely became obsessed with speaking about business and doing business as I evolved in my own business. But yeah, I have always, from like as long as I can remember, just been very hungry to get the fucking most out of my life. And obviously business is a vehicle for that. So I find it, I think I can see, because obviously with mentoring as well, I can see when there's people that get it and there's people that just don't get it, and that's totally fine. I don't think everyone should be in business. I think we're in a world right now where, like, particularly online, everyone's talking about, quitting your job and creating a business, but I genuinely don't think it's for everyone, no matter how much personal development work that you do. But I've always very much been like, whilst my journey has changed a lot, like I started as a dancer and then I moved into PT, and then obviously now into mentoring, and the PT journey was a long one. I've always had a very clear vision of like my next kind of steps, and it's naturally evolved. It's never been something I've actively planned. which I find like it's a little bit tricky as well. Like when you were talking about the courage thing earlier, it's hard to relate, I think, to a lot of people like with how I feel about like that, because a lot of people, it is very much like they've had this one traumatic thing that's happened and then it's been the catalyst for their whole life. Whereas I feel like my journey is not like that.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's many kind of experiences that kind of led me to where I am that are like tiny.
Yeah.
I remember it was like 2017 and I had a relationship that had just ended, and I was living in New Farm at the time, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna move. And I'm like, I'm either gonna move to the Sunshine Coast or the Gold Coast. And I had this conversation with my housemate at the time, and he's like, because I was the relationship that ended, they lived on the Gold Coast, and I'm like, I don't want to go to the Gold Coast then because I might run into them. It's a Gold Coast is a small place, and he's like, Gold Coast is a pretty big place. Like, you probably aren't going to run into them. And if I look at the trajectory of my life from that moment of all of the different things that happened, the partner that I'm with, the business that I have, all of those things are completely different now comparative to if I had have like just gone and lived at the sunny coast. I would have an entirely different circle of friends. I would have an entirely different partner, because my partner I met then on the Gold Coast. There's I definitely think there's so many points of like tiny little things like that make a massive shift in terms of what you're here to create, that are not even courageous moments. They're just, they're just the evolution of what you're here to be able to live as your life. And if you have a value of curiosity and growth, then you will unendingly just follow that journey in everything that you do. How big a value do you think growth is to you?
Oh my gosh. Like crippling. It's a crippling value.
What do you mean crippling?
Because it's my biggest blessing, but also can be the it can pull you away from being present and fully experiencing the things that you've done. And like I talk about this all the time, it's going to make me cry. I was not planning on crying today. I speak to my sister about this all the time, because I've like created this incredible life, and it's hard to, when you're always like have your eye on the next thing. And it's like, it's not, because I think a lot of people have a fear of, oh, it's like a comparison piece or whatever. There's a lot of things like that. But for me, it's like I know what I'm capable of, and I would kick myself if I didn't achieve that. And so it's like, it is like I'm so grateful, and I would never not want to have that quality. But it's also like, and this is where breath work is very helpful in my life, to be able to, recognize what you've built and be able to stop for a moment and appreciate what you've achieved. And that's something that the past probably year or two have struggled with the most.
Yeah, that's pretty common. We talk about it as the what's next paradigm. It's like ultra achievers consistently are focused on what's next, that they never receive the things they've actually done. They create all of these massive achievements, these massive levels of success, but then they don't actually receive it. And often it's playing out based on this level of, if I do enough, if I give enough, if I achieve enough, then eventually I'll be enough, and then I'll receive the love that I yearn for. But until you get present to where you are, you actually almost need to struggle to succeed to get to the next level.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's one of the core things that plays out for so many people that we work with, is that recognition that, you know, there's a lot of people that are in the energetic frequency of like neediness. They need to create success. Then it's outside of them. And then you have all the people that create success, but then they go to the opposite end of the spectrum of going, all right, well, what's next? What's next? What's the next goal? What's the next business? What's the next thing? And both of those people, there's the group of people that are the what's next, they're stuck in the future, and then they've got the other neediness people that are stuck in the past. And what it really comes back to is our ability to become so present to where we are, to receive where we are, to receive what we've done, especially, you know, this time of year. I had someone send me, one of my clients sent me a voice note. She's like, I started just listing out all of the things that I've achieved in the last year. And it was an 8-minute voice note, and I was shocked.
Yeah.
And what it really comes down to is this inability for us, especially as overachievers, to see ourselves in what we actually create. And the greatest fear of most overachievers is to no longer have the drive to be successful, because it's this interesting thing that plays out with people when they start their spiritual and healing journey. They don't want to heal too much in case they start to lose their drive for success.
I can understand that, because when you start something and you're like all in on that thing, that's obviously, I went through that experience with when I started breathwork. I was doing it every day for so long and immersing myself in that, but I can't imagine ever getting to that place.
Yeah.
Of like not wanting, because I also have a very hyper like masculine side to me when it comes to business, which I fucking love, and I will never, I wouldn't want to lose that.
Yeah, and that's the common thread that happens for most people. It's like you don't want to lose that, and you know the difference that we look at with that is to get to the highest level of that is moving from doing things because you have to doing things because you're inspired to. It's going from, you know, being desperate to achieve the thing to inspired to achieve the thing, which means you actually just do it much easier, because then it just flows and everything just starts to move to the next level with ease. And that's the thing that most, you know, ultra achievers face off with all of the time. It's like, but don't take my drive because that's created all of my success.
No, actually, as you were talking, I was reflecting on what has created my success, and I think my energy, like I'm often reflected back by people around me, that I don't necessarily have to say or do anything to have a positive impact on people, and even like my family or I guess the thing that is reflected back to me on like the positive impact that I have on people is around how I just make them feel, just being myself. So yeah, it is just about like remembering that in those moments when you're fucking grinding.
And journeying the ego death.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very, very easy to forget. I was on a call with a client yesterday, and I'm like, so how long have you been doing this? And she's like, 30 years. And I'm like, fucking wow.
Committed.
Yeah. 30. We're doing this thing for 30 years. And it's very, very easy to fall into that comparison to, you know, that person's growing faster than me. That person's just achieved that. I think you experienced this recently. You know, people get triggered on other people's success. I saw, you know, people unfollowing you because you got your next investment property or something. People kind of fall into that level of comparison and forget who they are and forget how powerful they are. And it becomes this thing that, that again, one group of people will stop taking action, and the next group of people start to take twice as much action to start to almost overcompensate for it, thus making it much kind of harder than it needs to be. What do you say to one of your high level clients when they come to you and you can recognize that they're just making it much harder than it needs to be?
The first thing I thought of was, I think a lot of the time, and with any problem, I think a lot of people are very quick to, shut it down and go, oh, I don't know why this is happening, but like they do know. And so a lot of moments like that, just quite literally holding space for them to actually think and connect in, and because they do know, and they know far better than I would know what's going on for them. So I think like that's kind of what I was saying about, there's a big part of my mentoring that is very strategy, but you need to be able to have, it needs to come from a very embodied place. I just got goosebumps. And it needs to be very authentic to you. Otherwise the strategy will just flop. So yeah, I think in anything like that, it's more so about actually getting them to reflect and come up with the answer themselves, or prompting them with questions that are like often very uncomfortable, and not uncomfortable because it's anything like crazy that I'm saying. It's just uncomfortable because they've never maybe taken that time to kind of reflect or whatever. Like I literally had a woman, this is not in mentoring, in the fitness business, on a consult call the other day, who hung up on me after crying 3 times on our call. And it was because it was the first time she's ever been like forced to, reflect and sit with kind of her feelings. And I was just asking the same questions that I kind of always ask in those scenarios. And like, I would honestly say 50% of the people that I do consults with cry, which is not like a negative thing. I think it's a beautiful thing. So yeah, I think it is about like, it's not about anything that I'm doing or saying. It's about prompting them to uncover what's going on.
Yeah, so many people never have someone be that present with them to actually reflect on those things. And, a lot of people are in that kind of paradigm of consistently just disconnecting with themselves, whether it's, scrolling on their phone or, overworking, all of those things, to be able to avoid often just being alone with themselves or being present with themselves, because then that forces them to look at themselves rather than look at the world out there, look at all of the things that are playing out on social media, look at all of the other people, because it's often terrifying just to be with yourself.
But then there's the other side of the pendulum where people do too much of that and they think too much about it. And I'm like, you just need to fucking do the thing.
Yeah, 100%. That's why we look at the 2 groups of people consistently. There's the
stuck in the self-development land.
Yeah, there's the people that are the over processors, and then there's the people that are the under processors. And I think it's important to have kind of seasons of each, of more processing. And like I had a client this week, she's, she just realized that she's done $23 million in business, and she didn't kind of, own that for like a long time. She's like, oh, I actually calculated up how much money we've made in business. And her question for me this week was, it was all about curiosity. It's like, I'm very curious. Is that, she didn't say, is it a good thing? She says, what are the things that I'm not seeing with that? And I said, well, it's probably going to be your greatest gift that you're going to give to people. And it's going to be the same thing that you use to protect yourself. It's going to be the same thing to be able to get the unending answers, because she works a lot with people who have ADHD. It's like this unending searching of like the rabbit holes that they go down, where they get all of these loops closed off, where they use that to be able to create a level of certainty in their mind, but not actually get back into their heart. And that's why I loved when you talked earlier about like doing your business from your heart. And for her, it was like that recognition that although it's the greatest strength, if you have to keep doing that, you have to get the next answer and the next and the next answer, then it's probably a protection mechanism.
Yeah.
And most people don't get to that level of nuance and specificity to be able to recognize when something serves you and then when it stops serving you. And most people don't get to that point of reflection to be able to journey that, because most people are just like, oh yeah, curiosity is amazing. It's like, well, yeah, it is. And to what degree? And it's the greatest gift that you give to people, and that can be, where you hide. And for me, what I recognize in that for me is like, I'm naturally a teacher. I teach things all the time, but that's also the same thing that I use to protect myself. So as soon as I go into teaching, if I'm doing something in business, I'm like drawing out a model and all of these things, and people love it. And at the same time, people want that authentic version of me that you were talking about before, of like, they just want you more than the teaching, more than the offer, more than each of those things. What's been your journey with recognizing how important it is to give more of you, more of your heart with the strategy? Because it's not like either or, it's like giving them some of the strategy, but then also making sure that they're getting the essence and the embodiment that is you.
I think I've got two kind of sides to this. Like the first thing, I guess, is with like, if something's not landing for someone, or if it's not working for someone, then obviously that's when you need to kind of go, okay, well, the strategy's not, it's not the strategy problem, because the strategy's worked for, and obviously there's different strategies for all the different businesses and everything like that. But there was something else I was going to say about that. Oh, it's like definitely something that I've struggled with, because one of my toxic traits is needing verbal validation that I'm doing, that I'm positively impacting someone. And so that's something I like constantly have to remind myself, is like actually just me living my, sounds so like cliche, but like my best life, and just being in my, most authentic kind of frequency is very impactful for a lot of people. So it's like, like, I don't know. I can't really remember what the question was, but balancing both.
Yeah. What do you think that comes from, that need for external validation?
That is a question that I have pondered for a very long time.
I'm excited to hear what your current answer is then.
Yeah, that's a tricky one, because it's the same kind of thing that I've been pondering for a very long time, of like where I get this drive for life from. Because again, I never had like this. There's things that have happened in my life. My mum passed away when I was 11. My parents are divorced. My sister tried to take her own life. Like lots of things that would have been very easy to kind of go, oh, that's the reason that I am the way I am. But I genuinely have struggled to kind of pinpoint and connect the dots. And then I also am like, I don't necessarily need to. Like if something feels true, I just need to honor that part of me that is like, that is my highest version of myself that is trying to, do what it wants to do. And so I don't necessarily need to know why it's kind of, why I am that way or not. But the verbal validation is an interesting one that I probably need to ponder on some more.
Yeah.
Because it is obviously, it's like it is quite a destructive trait, but at the same time, because I'm aware of it, I'm able to check that thought when it comes up and not let it impact what I do next. So it's like kind of what I was saying before about people get stuck in like trying to figure out where it's come from and why it's like that. But it's like, okay, well, if you're aware of the thing, sometimes you actually don't always need to understand why it is the way it is. You just need to be able to recognize when it's coming up and when it's debilitating or when it's impacting your kind of next steps or happiness or any of that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I've definitely fallen into that where it's like needing to know why all of those things have happened. I remember I had a coach once. He's like, Cody, every time that you ask me a why question, does it actually help? And I'm like, what do you mean? What do you mean?
Yeah. I went to see a therapist for the first time in my life last year. I did like 3 sessions and I was like, not really getting anywhere with this. But one thing that I did get out of it was she said, do you ever just feel the feeling? And I was like, oh, true. You don't have to unpack everything you feel.
Yeah, I love that. I have the same kind of response with therapy too. I think I did 2 sessions.
Yeah. I think when you've done a lot of work, like and I think she even kind of reflected back to me that like I was almost making something out of kind of something that wasn't there.
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely people that they go on that unending search to be able to find the thing. And it's that paradigm of, this is the thing. It's the one dimensionality of like, it's because, who was it that died when you're 11?
My mum.
Your mum. It's because my mum died when I was 11 that I am all these things. It's like, well, I'm sure that has some level of impact in shaping you, but it is not that one dimensional reality that we kind of live in. All of your experiences throughout all of your life are, and how you respond to those are going to determine who you are more than just one experience. Because if it's just one experience, then what happens? Well, we just create an identification of being a victim of that thing rather than actually being empowering in our life and actually being the conscious creator of the life that we want to create, rather than having that thing define who we are, and what we can do in the world. And, there's this experience where, again, we fall into 2 camps predominantly. It's like the people that the avoiders of feelers and the over-feelers. And the dance is recognizing what is your natural tendency, and you already started to point to pieces of that. It's like, I have a tendency to not feel in that instance when she reflected that back to you. It's like, oh, okay, well, I can do a little bit of that. I don't have to go to the full extreme of doing my breath work for the next 12 hours to be able to journey it.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I even went to one of Morgan's like 3-day events a few years ago, and we did like a timeline kind of thing where you kind of go, okay, 0 to 7 years, 7 to 14 years, 14 to 21 years. And I struggled so much with that because I was like listing all the things that had happened, but I was like, I can't remember what the purpose of the exercise was. Obviously, I couldn't really get into it. But I remember talking to him about like, it's not created this big thing for me. And I think it is something that I fucking love about myself and it's, I think, why I've been able to have the success that I've had, but also the happiness along the way. Like I genuinely wake up every fucking day excited to like live my day. And I think it's having that nuance and having that ability to recognize the thing, but not let it go one way or the other too far. And just like actually build the evidence in just doing the things.
Yeah. One of the principles that we look at is, everything is actually perfect as it is. Like it's this unending journey from moving from perfect to perfect. And if we intellectualize that, it actually disconnects with the thing. But if we can actually start to receive and, as you said, recognize all of the things that have actually, occurred in our past, that we can actually bring those things with us and actually bring that energy forth, rather than be consistently looking behind us at all of the things that have happened. And there's a huge difference between the people that can do the glancing in the rearview mirror to be able to look at the things that have occurred versus the people that have their eyes fixed on that past and unconsciously start to actually recreate that past by creating situations and scenarios where that actually continues to play out, rather than actually starting to recognize that that was the perfect thing. That, like, I had that perfect conversation with my housemate at the time to be able to go in this entire direction. And if I go in a different direction, then all of the things that I most love about my life are gone. And it takes an acute level of awareness to be able to recognize that that's actually what plays out. There's no wrong or right with those things. It's just recognizing that all of the things that I most love occurred based on all of the things that have occurred in the past, and recognize that that's a journey of recognizing it's going from perfect to perfect, from complete to complete, from whole to whole. But our ego, our intellect starts to go, oh no, it's broken, and then it goes to whole, and then it's incomplete to complete. And I love David Hawkins' work on this. He talks about, it only ever moves from perfect to perfect. And when we come from that energetic frequency, then we start to come from that place automatically of appreciation and gratitude. We don't have to contemplate and meditate about being grateful. We inherently are, because we start to recognize all of the things that have occurred for us to be in this moment, for even us to have this conversation. We're talking about this a little bit before. It's like, it's interesting when people come into your life, because a lot of people are, one person away from someone. It's played out with my partner. I was selling from stage in a gym. I'm going to go into this gym, and then I sell all of the personal trainers on the program that I'm running. And at that time, my now partner is in the room, and she's like, no, I'm never going to buy from this guy. He just wants to sell to you. I was also dating her boss at the time. So... And, that was that point in time. So I knew her for many, 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 many years. And then, like maybe 5 or 6 years later, one of my team members messaged her for her birthday, because my team members would like message people on Facebook for their birthday, do all of these things. And I'm at this point in my life where I'm going on a walk with one of my friends down at Coromon, and I'm like, I'm looking for a wife. And she responds like months later after her birthday and goes, hey, thanks for the birthday message. How are you going? And I'm like, is this my wife? And it's interesting to see how it plays out, of like all of the layers of perfection of everything that's had to occur for us to then reconnect, to then get into a relationship, to have the children that we have, to have the business that we have, to have the life that we have, the house that we live in on the water, all of the things that would have never occurred had we, connected in a different way back then. And all of those people come into your life in the perfect season at the perfect time. And most people never recognize the level of synchronicity that's occurring. One of the things that you're talking about before was like, there's that group of people that keep going back to the past to be able to find all of the next things to heal, because they've got their identity of, I'm doing the inner work, I've got to heal myself, and they're looping in all of those things. And then there's the other group of people that, what comes up, comes up. It's the next thing scheduled to be loved. And when it's the next thing scheduled to be loved, I don't have to go looking for it. It just comes up, and it comes up at the perfect time for me to be able to get the reflections that I need from the person that I'm in front of in that moment, which allows us to be able to recognize that, there is only ever perfection. There is only ever wholeness. And it becomes this unending journey of recognizing who we are and what we're here to be able to create, and the unfolding of that without needing to get stuck in the future of what that looks like, or, trying to avoid things that we're creating from the past. And it becomes this journey of becoming deeply present to who we are and where we are and what's in front of us in that moment. And that's, one of the most powerful experiences that we can start to step into. So I'd love to know what's been your journey with coming back to presence?
I think for my whole kind of like childhood up until I was maybe 24, I wasn't on autopilot, but I've always just been a very like confident, just always been very certain of myself, known what I'm doing next, like not really thought that far ahead so much, of like just like a different type of presence to what it is to me now. And then when I experienced what happened with my sister, who is like, we are like best friends. That's kind of what led me into studying breath work. And that definitely changed, I guess, what presence kind of means to me right now, because I was, just always kind of doing the things and not really thinking about it, which worked so well. Like I have been very happy for like genuinely my whole life. But I think obviously like as you get older and you're experiencing more things and more struggles and all the things, that needed to happen for me to be able to now know how to cultivate the presence when I need it, which is like obviously should be all the time. But it definitely allowed me to kind of zoom out and be able to see everything from a more bird's eye view and see my life from more of that kind of lens. It's hard to articulate.
Yeah, it's definitely this ongoing journey. It's each season kind of calls forth a deeper level of, presence for you. Or talking about earlier, when you have kids, it's wildly different.
I always joke about how I don't have the patience for kids.
I didn't either.
but I also have like a very deep knowing that when that time comes, when I'm in that season of my life, I will be the best mum.
Yeah.
And I know that I will, it will be perfect at that time.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you learn patience as a parent. It's like whatever degree of patience that I thought that I had with like clients and stuff, it is expanded much more. And sometimes you get that with like a client that kind of tests you. They're like, right, they're expanding your capacity to be able to hold more people and preparing you for whether it's stepping into parenthood or serving people in large groups and each of those things. And our ability to be able to recognize what it's creating for us in that moment, but also moving forward becomes, the gift that we get from it. So, I think that's the perfect thing to wrap up on for today. What's the best way for people to find you?
Probably just on Instagram. It's Meg Tovey, except please never call me Megan if you see me in real life.
Cool. All right. Thanks. This has been fun.
Yeah, thanks so much.